You're listening to ASOTUCon Sessions by Space Auto, recorded live at ASOTUCon 2025.
All right, we are live on the ASOTUCon podcast stage, powered by Space Auto. And in the heart of the action here at ASOTUCon 2025, I'm Austin Conroy, here today with me, Ed Roberts of Bozard Ford Lincoln. We are talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, rethinking customer convenience in the ownership journey. So, Ed, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Good to be here, Austin.
So let's talk about the ownership experience today. Where do you think most dealers are falling short, particularly when it comes to fixed ops in terms of convenience?
Well, the glamour in a car dealership is always in sales, and so that's where all the focus ends up being. Well, the unfortunate piece of that is that's the small window. That's the acquisition piece of that vehicle. The ownership journey is much longer, and that's where service ties in. And we don't do enough to make it convenient for our customers to enjoy the ownership experience of their vehicle. And so those are the things that we need to look at and remove those barriers, because when we do that, we create loyal fans. And when we create loyal fans, we don't continuously conquest to maintain. We conquest to grow.
You know, I always say, in particularly that balance between sales and service, we need them both. But you know, you look at a good salesman, 12 to 15 cars a month, you'd probably take them. Service advisor writes that many tickets in a day, every day that he works. So just the sheer volume of customers that come through service versus sales. So tell me a little bit, you've talked about scheduling service before. How are you making scheduling of service more convenient for customers?
Well, let's back up a bit to tie it to acquisition. If we know that someone's somewhere in that funnel, somewhere along the way, we do everything in the world to make those connections and get them in. When we know that they need service, now it becomes an interrogation. Well, when does it do it? How long does it do it?
Yeah.
Are you willing to buy this when you come in? I don't know if I can get you in. And we interrogate them with 500,000 questions, where ultimately we should be opening our arms. Thank you for thinking about us when you need service. I'll be glad to take care of you. And so we got to remove those elements of all the elements of interrogation. I mean, think about it from that standpoint. We all have a favorite restaurant, but whether we have a favorite restaurant or not, we all go out to dinner at some point.
Yeah. And
we've all clicked on the open table and create a reservation, and all they want to know is how many people are you bringing and what time you want to be there.
Yeah.
For us, before we even show them any time about when we can have them there, we're going to ask them 97 questions, wear them out, which vehicle are you talking about, how many miles do you have, all the questions. It'd be just like hitting open table up. I don't want to come there until you tell me what your specials are. Yeah. I need to know what your appetizers are. I need to know all of it. Well, that's convenient. We're not. We got to become more convenient.
How much of that plays into like the experience with an online scheduling system? How much have you guys played around with that? Do you still see customers calling your store a lot? I mean, how are they wanting, as far as this convenience, how do you see this playing out?
The manufacturers are driving towards getting a 30% online appointment element. Yeah. And most manufacturers are somewhere around that window. And they feel like that's a pretty good job. Well, they feel like that's a pretty good job because the industry is about 12%.
Yeah.
So if it's 2.5 times what the industry is, they feel like, well, that's a good job.
Yeah.
Well, how many times do you go to Amazon versus the Walmart app? We haven't made it convenient enough for them. So we need to drive them to where they can schedule an appointment online 100% of the time if they desire to. And if it lands at 90, it lands at 90. Yeah. Well, let's throw 30% out the window. And in order to do that, you got to remove all those elements. Now, we work with our third parties and do those things, and we'll remove those things. But those third parties are large companies, and those large companies, there's multiple people there. And we'll remove those things out to where you can go in, you can pick a time, you can pick it when you want to come in, which vehicle you're bringing, and just go. And then a week later, it's got all the questions again because someone else inside that company said, whoa, what happened here? Something's wrong. And they turn them back on. Well, it's not that there's something wrong. That's our desire, and it's not the norm. And it's so far away from the norm, they feel like there has to be something wrong.
I feel like, and maybe you resonate with this, I feel like we try to make it easier for dealers and not easier for the customer. Like all these questions that we ask, why do we ask them? Because it makes it easier for us. If we have your VIN number ahead of time, if we have your miles ahead of time, it makes it easier for us. But what about the customer? Do you think that's the case?
You're speaking my language because I challenge my team all the time to look at it through the customer's lens.
Yeah.
And when we look at it through the customer's lens, we look at it differently. But we set it all up to be convenient for us. Well, if we find out that it's something that may be this or the other. Are you going to tell that customer, no, you can't service here? No, you're not going to tell them. You're still going to invite them in. So why not erase all those things and invite them in from the beginning, because that's what they want you to do.
One of the things too is just even the capacity settings as far as, every scheduler, okay, you're trying to book one at 2 o'clock. Well, I already have 3 booked at 2 o'clock, so you can't do it then. How in depth are you getting as far as are you opening those up? What's your strategy as far as let's flood the drive with as many cars as we can to make it super convenient? How do you balance that?
Well, it can work the same way as open table, because we can block the number of ones that we want to bring in at a certain time so you don't oversaturate you. We're fortunate to be a very large store. I have 34 advisors, so I'm going to have an opening at whatever time slot you want. Not everybody is that fortunate to be able to do that. But also ultimately, if you don't have something available at 2:30 and they want to be there at 2:30 because you only had 4 appointments that they could come in there, then are you still available at 3? And that's another thing that customers want a service out of convenience. People will drive to buy, but they want service out of convenience. And a lot of us turn appointments off after noon because we think, well, we can't handle them. Well, all of your competition is handling them. If they call Goodyear, they call anybody else and tell them they want to come in at 3:30, they welcome them at 3:30. And then we have to fight their way back in. Well, when we lose them to them at that point, 85% of the customers that defect from a dealer to get service elsewhere after their warranty period never come back to the dealer with that vehicle.
Scary.
But we push them away all too often, and we need to be inviting them in and welcoming them in and thanking them for thinking about us first.
We're talking about convenience, and there are definitely some big national chains that have been built on the convenience of a stay-in-your-car, 15-minute oil change. Do you think dealers should compete with that, or where do you see that in this whole convenience landscape?
So they dance on that because customers have the perception that we're not convenient, and they have the perception that we're not convenient because we run them down all those rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And so their perception, their outcome of it is, it's not convenient for me to get my vehicle service there. So then the others play off of that, and that gives them their opportunity to say, okay, well, I can fill that void and capture those customers, and then we fight forever to bring them back. Well, we create those voids. So, but it goes back to what you said earlier. If we look at it through the customer's lens, then we never create those voids to begin with. We invite our customers in because if we can't fix it today, neither can Goodyear.
Yeah.
But Goodyear has it when we told them we couldn't because we couldn't fix it. It's still an opportunity when we feel like, well, I don't have a loaner for them. Well, neither does Goodyear. You don't have to have the loaner. Tell customers what we can do. But we get so locked in on service of what can go wrong rather than what can go right, because that's what service is. If it's not maintenance, something went wrong. So that becomes our mindset. We have to intentionally shift our mind to what can we do. And as long as we're that confident voice for the customer, they're fine.
Yeah.
It's when no. Now it becomes, I got to push through these barriers. So we create the friction, and then ultimately we start trying to figure out how to bring them back. Well, we created the friction that pushes them away. Yeah. And we just got to make ourselves more convenient.
So what's the future just in terms of convenience? And I can't have you on the stage with your store without bringing up mobile service a little bit. I mean, you guys are world famous when it comes to fixed ops for mobile service. Is that the future of a convenient service experience? We've talked about the scheduling and the appointments. That's great for in dealership. What do customers really want going forward, though?
Service is a reactionary element. We may plan a purchase. Let's say we got vacation scheduled and we're going on vacation on Friday, and this is what a customer goes through all the time, and then their service soon light comes on. It's time for an oil change on Thursday, and then we tell them we can't see them until Saturday. Well, guess what? Their vacation's still already planned. They're going on vacation on Friday, so they go somewhere else. And with mobile service, I want to be able, if I look 5 years out, it's a much different view than what we talk about today. But in today's deal, I want to meet a customer where they're at. Yeah. And if they need service today because they're going on vacation tomorrow, rather than even let them take half of the day off because they got already off next week to go on vacation, I show up at their place of business, take care of that service, and they are good to go. We've totally eliminated the friction that they was prepared to fight through. But if you fast forward 5 years, I want to be able to use connected vehicle data. So I already know that you need a service, and when you're calling me, I know which vehicle you're calling me about. I know which truck I can send to you. I know which part I have on that truck that I'm probably going to need. And I know the technician to send to you, and I can be a lot more proactive. And so looking at it through that lens, if a customer needs to service their vehicle 6 times during their ownership journey, 5 times I want to come to them. Maybe one time they might need to come in to me. And if those, and we think, well, if we don't bring them into the store, we can't sell them again. Well, we already ran them off anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
But that can ultimately tie into this. So, I mean, let's say that you're looking on my website because you are going on vacation next week and I found something wrong with your vehicle and it's not safe to drive and you don't want to take a rental car, so you might look at buying. And you look at let's say a Silverado, for instance. Well, you're not going to just look at that one Silverado. You're going to look at 5 of them, and you might narrow it down to 3. Well, let me send a lead in on these 3, or they don't look at it from a lead, but let me send in some, find out something about these 3. Well, the next thing we do is we try to get them into our store where they don't have time to come into our store. It's still an inconvenience for them, even on the buying cycle, especially in that element. But if we told them, Austin, do you still live on Garrison Drive? Yes. You're 17 minutes from me. I haven't personally touched this vehicle, but we wouldn't have it on our lot if it wasn't what we expected to be here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. Well, I'll grab the keys, I'll drive out to you, we'll look at it in your driveway, and we'll go from there. Now what I've done is I've taken that customer totally out of the market, and they're waiting for me to get there, because their next question, as soon as I ask, well, when can I get you to come in? Well, I need to know what you're going to give me for my trade.
Yeah.
And so mobile will tie into all that and bring it full circle to where I can still own the ownership experience and the buying experience.
So it's mobile service, and now we're talking mobile sales, and that's going to be a different podcast for another time. Ed, thank you so much for joining us. We talked about going online. The challenge to any dealer that wants to improve their service experience, especially when it comes to convenience, go to your website and try to schedule an appointment. I bet you're going to get as frustrated as your customers are. Thanks again, Ed.
Thank you, Austin.
Thank you for listening to this ASOTU session brought to you by Space Auto. At ASOTU, we're obsessed with uniting people around one big idea, that thriving people are the only path to a thriving and profitable industry. If that resonates with you, head over to morethancars.com to join our email list and explore our full list of podcasts.